Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the first of several prevention features in ArmSwinger. This is Prevent Wall Clip. What Prevent Wall Clip does is it keeps your players from putting their headset into walls or objects in your scene that you don't want them to be able to see through. For instance, prevent them from looking through a wall to see players on a different part of the map, or breaking the geometry in order to see further along into a level than you'd intend. Prevent Wall Clip relies on a secondary script that also comes with ArmSwinger called Headset Collider. This script doesn't need to be applied anywhere. Instead, ArmSwinger will intelligently decide if Headset Collider needs to be applied, and if it does, it will apply it to your headset. So let me show you where that is real quick. In Assets, ArmSwinger, and then Scripts, there is an additional script called Headset Collider. Now, you don't actually have to apply the Headset Collider script anywhere. ArmSwinger will do that for you automatically if it detects that you've turned on Prevent Wall Clip. So take a look here. When I hit play on this scene, we'll see that the headset object that is here has the Headset Collider script on it automatically. If I stop the scene, it's gone. It hasn't been applied by you, it's being applied by ArmSwinger. As a part of Headset Collider being applied there, it creates the two additional components, Sphere Collider, a non-trigger sphere collider, and then rigid body. Now, an important thing with this rigid body is that all constraints are frozen, which means that even though it is considered a physics object to the engine, there is no actual physics that takes place against it. So it's fully controlled by your head. The reason it has to be set up this way is so that when you have collisions that occur between the headset and other objects in the world, there is a collision for me to get point data from in order to understand where that touch happened and be able to rewind appropriately. So you can see how Headset Collider works here. Now let's take a look at some of the settings. So the first setting here is very straightforward. Prevent Wall Clip just turns the entire feature on and off. So if you want to handle this on your own, or if you have a level where you're not really concerned about the player sticking their head through something, then you can certainly turn this entire feature off. The Prevent Wall Clip layer mask acts very similar to the Raycast ground layer mask. It sets what layers in your scene the headset can collide with. So this lets you do some interesting stuff where, say you want players to not have to collide into objects that are floating in the scene that you have a rigid body on for some other purpose, but you don't want the headset to be reset when it touches them. Also for things like if there's a rigid body on your controller, and you don't want there to be a collision between the controller and the headset as well. So it's important to select the right layers here based on your particular use case. The next option is Prevent Wall Clip Mode, which determines how ArmSwinger reacts when the player tries to put their head into an object that is in the Wall Clip layer mask. So there are two options here, Rewind and Pushback. Pushback is default, and what pushback does is makes it so that if you take your head and you attempt to put it into a wall, what it feels like is that you're pushing the entire world away from you when you do that. But what's actually happening is that your camera rig is being rewound from the wall, equal to how much you're pushing into it. So you can kind of see in the demo video here what exactly that effect is. If you pay attention to the camera rig, you'll see that as I push my head into the wall, the camera rig is actually moving to compensate for the push that I'm making. Obviously, I can't programmatically prevent you from making a physical move that would put you into the wall, but I can virtually move your camera rig in order to make that move not actually go into the wall after all. The other mode option is Rewind, which we've talked about Rewind in a previous video, but it rewinds you to a previous safe position based on the settings that you have set in the Rewind section below. So Rewind is certainly a little more immersion breaking because there's actually a fade out and a fade back in when it puts you in the right place. Pushback feels pretty good. I imagine some people are going to have some nausea issues with it. It's a little bit of a weird feeling to push the wall away from you, but it's much less of a harsh penalty for something like if you're playing in a first-person shooter and you try to go around a wall and you just happen to touch the wall as you're going by. Rather than rewind you to a previous position, it just does the small shift to make your head not in the wall anymore and you can move on. So you can really tweak that setting based on what's best in your use case. The next setting is the Headset Collider Radius. It's set to something pretty sane right here, but that determines the radius of the sphere collider that is around your headset. It's basically the size of your head as far as wall clip prevention is concerned. This next setting actually prevents an interesting problem that we ran into. The setting is prevent wall clip min angle to trigger. So this is the minimum angle that a surface needs to be in order for wall clip prevention to kick in. The reason that this is important is for miscalibrated floors or situations where the headset is placed on the floor. So if I take off my headset, and in this demo, I purposefully miscalibrated my floor so that the floor is too high, and I take my headset and I put it down, I get stuck in a continuous rewind because it's seeing that my headset is in the floor, it's in the layer mask, and so a continuous rewind happens. This setting prevents that from happening by checking the collision point and seeing what the normal is. So that determines the angle of the surface that was hit. So if I set my headset on the ground with the feature on, if I set my headset on through the floor, it doesn't actually rewind. But if I put my headset back on and walk over to a wall and try and push into it, everything works fine. This will also prevent interesting cases with stuff like ramps. If your player got into a position where they could try and push their head into a ramp, there could be some interesting reactions to that, because with pushback, at least, what's actually happening is, like I said, the camera rig is being adjusted, but it's actually being adjusted to the last previous position that was safe. So depending on the angle of how you go into a ramp with your headset, if you're able to do that, you could have some interesting pushback scenarios. That pretty much covers the settings for prevent wall clip. That's just one of the several prevention options that are available in ArmSwinger, and we will cover more in future videos. We'll see you then.